Hey guys, welcome back to Hypermobile Friendly Workouts. Today I want to talk to you about a few things that I pay for and invest money in that help me manage my hypermobility related symptoms. So I recently posted a video that was talking a bunch about 5 or maybe 6 different daily habits that I incorporate that really have helped manage my hypermobility related symptoms, my flare-ups, pain management, fatigue, just different things like that. And these habits have been extraordinarily helpful. But I also did think it was important for me to talk about the things that I also pay for and invest money in that have really made a big difference in my personal hypermobility journey. These are not to say these are things that you need to invest money in, but again, the last video was all about just giving you guys some different ideas and resources and options. And for those of you who are looking for something similar that maybe you don't have to do yourself, this might be a great resource for you as well. Sometimes you just need to offload that stuff to someone else. Sometimes you just need someone else's hands or energy or expertise to help you and assist you. And so, whereas I feel like I have a very solid handle on kind of the movement portion of things, I also recognize that there are some things that I literally just can't do for myself. And the first 2 things that I'm going to talk about today are really kind of the crux of the things that I invest in to help manage my symptoms that I really can't do for myself. And the first one is acupuncture. So my funny kind of backstory about acupuncture is that I actually had 2 very horrible experiences with acupuncture about 10 years ago. I tried it for the very first time in my early 20s because it's acupuncture. Like, it's this ephemeral, supposedly amazing thing, and it's supposed to be very, very helpful for pain management. And in my early 20s, I was probably at like the peak of my pain symptoms. And so I was just, one day, I was just kind of like, F it, I'm gonna give this a try and like see what all the fuss is about and if it's helpful. So I booked an appointment. At the time I was living in DC, and I booked an appointment at a acupuncture clinic in DC, and it was very nice, you know, everything. I think it just went as any acupuncture appointment should have gone. And I got up after about maybe half an hour, 45 minutes of having all the needles in me. And like, I imagine if I had been looking in a mirror, I just would have been like green. I don't know what happened. I think probably the closest thing I can describe is that like I had a vasovagal reaction to the acupuncture treatment. And I mean, I was this close to just like passing out, to the point where like I left, and you know, I'd had water and they were very nice, and I was like, okay, no, like I can leave. I got outside, sat on a bench, and had to call my mom to come and get me because I could not make it home. I mean, I was so sick, and I was sick the rest of the day. And so, because I'm a masochist, apparently, I was like, you know what? Okay, like, maybe that was just a weird, fluky situation. Like, let me give it another shot. So I think it was, like, sometime maybe a few months later, I tried again. The exact same thing happened to me. I was, like, white. I mean, all my blood in my feet. And I was just like, okay, I'm never trying this again. And lo and behold, 10 years later, this was when I was still teaching private sessions, and I had a client who I adore who swears by acupuncture, and she basically, in her like loving way, told me, Eva, you just need to suck it up and try it again. And so I did, and about a year and a half ago, probably, I found another practice. Again, this was up in DC where I was living, and walked in, and the woman, Sarah, who ran the practice, was super nice, and I told her the situation, and I said, listen, like, I have had 2 very bad experiences with acupuncture so far, and I'm really nervous about, like, fainting, and I have 5 tattoos, like, I'm not afraid of needles, and so I was very tentative, and she was super cool, and she was like, you know what, we're gonna start chill, we'll do like a few needles and just see how you do, and you can let me know if you need to like take them out. And I gotta say, like, we did the thing, she had a really nice practice, it was very relaxing, and I just kind of got to sit and chill and have the needles do their thing. And maybe she just had like the magic touch that I needed, or maybe my body was just at a different place in, you know, a year and a half ago, and so I was ready for it. But I walked out of that session like on cloud nine. I almost can't even describe the sensation. It was really, really interesting, and it was a completely different experience than I'd had 10 years prior. And so for about a year, really solidly, probably almost a year and a half, I was very regularly going to acupuncture. And this was something that I was just like, you know what, the cumulative effects that, you know, multiple sessions of acupuncture at that point were giving me were just so positive. I, as many of you guys know, am someone who is a very hypertonic. I tend to be a very tight, hypermobile person. I felt like it had such a positively powerful impact on my fascial mobility, meaning like my tissue mobility. I know other people really swear by like trigger point release, which is kind of a similar like needle concept with tissue release, but I just felt like this was a I've also done trigger point release, and I personally don't really like it. But I just felt like this was a more like relaxing, holistic experience, but receiving that same kind of tissue relaxation effect, but in a more, like I said, just I'm repeating myself now, but a much more holistic way. And again, I mean, I would just walk out of sessions feeling like I was on cloud nine. Interestingly enough, the last time I did acupuncture, which was a little while ago, I kind of, we moved and you know, I'm not in the same place anymore, and I haven't found a new acupuncture clinic, which is kind of a bummer. But the last time I did acupuncture, which was probably like 6 weeks to 2 months ago, I had another vasovagal episode. I had one of those episodes for the first time in this practice where I was like, I was sweating, my heart was pounding, and I was like, oh my God, what is happening? And Sarah was lovely, and you know, everything was okay. And I did manage to get myself home this time. But after that, I kind of was like, all right, maybe I need to take a little break, and then we moved. So I haven't been back to acupuncture in a bit, but I do fully plan to continue making it a part of my symptom management. So that is a very long story for me to say that acupuncture has been a huge, huge, just positive contribution to my management journey. And if you are not afraid of needles, it might be something interesting for you to try if you haven't done so. I will be totally honest, I don't really understand the methodology or the science or the magic behind acupuncture. My experience, I went in really kind of just anecdotally from other people saying, hey, this was amazingly helpful. And for that year and a half, it really has been. And I do plan to continue with it. So with that being said, that's kind of my first investment one. The other one, and I'm gonna need you all to just like simmer down for me, because the other one is chiropractic work. Now, I know that there are big feelings in the hypermobile community about chiropractic work. Many people out there say, oh my God, don't ever let a chiropractor touch you. I disagree. I have found insanely powerful, positive benefits from chiropractic work. My caveat is that I do not think every chiropractor can work with hypermobile people. That's not to say not everyone like could have the talents to or the ability to, but I don't think every chiropractor really knows how to. And that's okay, because it's not like every doctor out there or every practitioner knows how to work with us. It just means you have to be a little bit more selective of who you're working with. And I was very fortunate, again, when I was in DC, and I'm actually trying a new practice here in Raleigh, so we'll see how it goes. But I had an amazing practice in DC who was just very beneficial. She was a, funny enough, she was a chiropractor who primarily worked with new mothers and pediatric, meaning like infants and children. And the running joke between the two of us, her name was Kelly and she's lovely, the running joke between the two of us is that like the practice worked so well because in a lot of ways hypermobile people are like babies, meaning our tissue is just really lax and mobile. And so you have to kind of take a very similar approach to the way that you manage infant and like pediatric adjustments can be very well applied to hypermobile patients. And so this particular practice, she was also just very intuitive. She was very willing to like listen and adjust her treatment approach based on my feedback. And I am just someone, again, I think because I am on the more hypertonic side of that spectrum, I'm very, very tight, that that chiropractic work just works well. And, you know, again, like with the science of chiropractic, I mean, I'm vaguely versed in it. I'm not a chiropractor, so, you know, but just from what I understand, I almost do feel like it would be something relatively beneficial for people who are in more of my end of the spectrum, because even though the joint mobility is greater, because the tissue, like the more macro tissues, just remain so tense, like we might have more of an ability to kind of hold the adjustments versus maybe someone who's more hypotonic, who is on that really loose, gumby, very slippy and slidey side of the spectrum. Maybe that's the end of the spectrum where chiropractic isn't just super helpful. And so I do think it's very much about just kind of knowing your body. And for some people, you know, I do know other people, hypermobile people, who chiropractic work has just been really successful for. And then I know some people who it's just like, oh my God, no, not at all. That being said, I do not have any high velocity adjustments done on my neck ever. There is this cool thing in the chiropractic world called an activator, which is a very kind of low impact tool that chiropractors can use to make adjustments. And that is how I have been adjusted in the past. So it's not very what you would imagine, like the high intensity cracking and popping and all of that stuff, or the big rotations, because let's be honest, my joints are not going to be able to handle that no matter how tight I am. But using the activator and using some of these like softer maneuvers, I've personally found a lot of success. So chiropractor is something that I will definitely continue to invest in as part of my journey, but it really is just about finding the right practice. So far we've covered acupuncture, we've covered chiropractic. The final, you know, investment treatment that I have chosen as just part of my journey is fascial release. So you guys have probably, anyone here who's done my videos has seen we do a lot of fascial release. And for those who maybe are new here, so fascia is just this big web of connective tissue in the body, which, hello, when you're hypermobile, connective tissue doesn't like work quite the way it's supposed to. So giving your connective tissue a bunch of TLC is very, very important. And so we do a lot of release of fascia in my videos to help encourage proper movement and proper function. But like I mentioned, sometimes you just need someone else's hands or expertise or eyes on your body working on the things that maybe you can't always identify. And so one other treatment that I have invested in is having fascial practitioners work on me. And that is one of my favorite approaches. I've typically worked with people who have used the Barnes method, I believe it's called. I've actually read his book, and it's, or one of his books maybe, and it's just like he's had a like super interesting journey. It's a lot of like patient anecdotal work. But so I'll see if I can find the link to it and I'll send it down, or I'll put it down below. But yeah, so with fascial work, that's the one other space that I've invested in because I just personally find it so helpful for me. In a similar way that I have found acupuncture to be helpful. Up until recently, fascial practitioners have been kind of difficult to come by, particularly people in the Barnes method. But in the last maybe 5 years, I think the discussions in the fitness and kind of medical community about the important role of fascia have become much greater. And so now more people are learning how to work on it and how to work with it. It's nice because it's different than just regular massage. Maybe some of you guys out there have had a lot of benefit with massage. I am not one of those people. Massage has been more detrimental to my wellness than it has been helpful. Namely because I'm usually getting kind of massage like pushes you around and just in a way that my body does not jive with, and I often end up walking with like walking away with like a rib out of place or my hips out of place, and that's just kind of the situation for me. But fascial work tends to be much less intensive and much less deep in that way, but I find it no less powerful and no less impactful. So with that being said, I do think fascia work is another really interesting space to explore, and just see if it's something that like jives with your body. But at the end of the day, so the three things that I've invested in are acupuncture, chiropractic work, and fascial release. As I'm going through this big kind of travel year, which I think I owe you guys a few more details on in another video, but as I am just kind of bopping around the country, I will be really interested to see just what the different styles and approaches are as I work with different practitioners. It's a little nerve-wracking because, as many of you guys know, there are a lot of people out there that don't really know how to work with hypermobility and EDS, so I do feel like I'm kind of taking some leaps of faith, but I'm also willing to do that, because I personally just think that if you're not willing to explore practitioners and explore different treatments, then you just kind of get stuck in space, and you know, I really value building my team of practitioners and also being able to offer resources to other people as I go along. So with that being said, I hope you found this information helpful. I appreciate you hearing my perspective, and if you have any questions, or if you have any other modalities that you have tried that have been really valuable to you, please let us know in the comments, because we are all just here trying to learn from each other's experiences. But in the meantime, take care, and I will see you all in the next video.